Hey guys, welcome back to Scuderia Car Parts. Today we're going to do something a bit different, right? We're going to have a look at the Ferrari Special Commission. So I'm sure some of you have heard of like the TRS and the P45, which kind of isn't a proper one, but we'll get to that later. What we're going to do is this, right? I've devised a series of ranks, basically, with which we can categorize the various cars. So starting from best to worst, the top one is get out of my dreams, get into my garage. So this is a car that I love and I want. So fine, that's cool. The one below that is hideous, but I want one. So, you know, there are a couple of these which are a little bit ugly, but there's something cool about them, and I kind of want one. Now, the third one, the kind of mid-tier, is not great, not horrifying. This is for cars which, they're just kind of inoffensive. Yeah, they are. Number 4 is kind of the second from the bottom, and that's just the bin. There's a couple of cars going in the bin today for sure. And then the absolute worst one, and I don't think many have actually fallen into this category because you've got to try really hard to be this bad, is Gimbala called and they want their car back. So that's for cars where it's just like, who saw that and went, yes, that's cool. It's quite frankly inexcusable. An inexcusable piece of design. So yeah, we'll go through. I'll tell you a little bit about each one, and we'll kind of rank them, and we'll go through. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, give us a subscribe, and I want to hear what you say about the cars in the comments below. The Ferrari Sp1. This is Ferrari's first one-off commission based on a 430, and look, it's okay. They just haven't really got it right yet. They've basically put some eyeliner and kind of quite a lame front bumper on the 430. It was built for the ex-president of the Ferrari Club of Japan, and it was designed by a guy called Leonardo Fioraventi. Now, this customer loved a car that Leonardo had designed previously called the F100, and clearly, Leonardo Fioraventi used that car as the inspiration with which to ruin the back of this F430. Yeah, you know, listen, it's not great, it's not horrifying. Ferrari F540 Superfast Aperta. Now, okay, so the story behind this one's really cool. So they took a 330 LMB and they basically got this coach builder called Fantuzzi to rebody the car for a film called Toby Dammit from 1968. And so, yeah, they took this 330 and rebodied it in this really cool, like, Barchetta roofless style. And it looked great back then, and it still looks great today. So Ferrari basically took a 509 GTB and essentially built a modern version of this golden Ferrari. And yeah, it's cool to see a modern adaptation of 60s design. You know, for me, swap out the NAF wheels and the gold paint, and I'm there. Yeah, it's hideous, but I want one. The Ferrari Super America 45. This is a complete train wreck from start to finish. They've taken a 599, which is a cool car, and then they've put the worst roof that Ferrari has ever created on it. And then instead of finishing it in glass, which was the only redeeming quality of the 575 Super America's roof, they finished it in carbon fiber. So it just doesn't work, man. I don't like it. So they used a 599 GTB when there was already a roofless 599 GTO. So he's basically gone and bought a really expensive, detuned 599 SA Aperta with the worst roof in history on it. So this one, we'll put this one in the bin. I think this is not good. The SP12 EC. Yeah, this is about as good as the one-off commissions get, to be honest. The 458 as it stands was a completely genre-defining car. So the platform that they've used is already amazing. And then it's this really cool homage to what I think is a really overlooked kind of deep cut from Ferrari's back catalogue, which is the 512 BB. And quite frankly, if it's good enough for Eric Clapton, it's going to be good enough for me. So yeah, get out of my dreams, get into my garage. The Ferrari SP Aria. Very few cars are capable of making the designers at Gimbala look understated and classy, because they are literally the least talented people on the face of the earth. You know, they are essentially to car design what Robert Unwin was to the X Factor.
Ready? No, oh, I've lost where I am. I can't. I'll just do the chorus because I'm a bit nervous.
And this car is essentially what happens when you allow someone who has no idea how to design a car to to design a car. The guy this is built for said this, and I quote, "I told the designers what I wanted, and they presented me with a total of 12 designs. I then picked bits from each that I liked until we got to the idea of the car that I had in mind. A bit like a wish list." And you know, I personally, I can tell that that's how the car was made. You know, they say that a camel is a horse built by means of a kind of commission or a conference or whatever. This is essentially the camel. You know, there's no cohesion. Nothing makes any sense. It looks like 15 cars stuck together. And, you know, the kind of backstory of this car is that the guy it was designed for got himself in quite a lot of trouble, and his entire collection of cars was repossessed. And this thing, since then, has basically just floated around the world from auction to dealer to auction, because literally nobody wants it, and I can see why. So yeah, I think for this one we're going to go Gimbala calls and they want their car back. F12 TRS. This was made for the guy that I mentioned in the last video who bought that F50 GT from Australia, and then obviously there was that video of it being raced at Yas Marina. Essentially what they've done is they've taken an F12 Berlinetta and they've made it into like a Barchetta, which is a kind of roofless car. Now, they originally had kind of glass windows on the kind of top of the bonnet to show off the engine, but eventually the owner just removed the glass and left the engine exposed. The only thing, and in fact it's not even a drawback, it's just something to consider, is that these things are loud. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Barchettas. You know, I prefer a car that I can choose whether it has a roof or not. But you know, the owner's actually had a really nice double bubble roof made for it out of glass. So, you know, I think that kind of makes it more usable. Personally, you know, this is a get out of dreams and get into my garage car, for sure. Ferrari SP America, quite frankly, my time is more valuable than spending it discussing this. It does absolutely nothing for me. You know, someone basically it looks like someone bought a Berlinetta, but they wanted a TDF, so they put quite a mild and pretty inoffensive body kit on it. You know, the hood's kind of cool, but then the front bumper looks like it's trying too hard to be a TDF without actually being a TDF. You know, this is, yeah, the less said about this, the better. You know, not great, not horrifying. The Ferrari SPFX Coupe. Quite what they were smoking when they were designing this, I have no idea. But let's just understand where this sits in the Ferrari lineup a little bit, right? So you've got the F12 and then you've got the FF. Now, obviously there are huge differences between the two, but in roundabout terms, we could say that the F12 is kind of the coupe version of the FF, you know, leaving aside the four-wheel drive and that kind of thing. So what they've done here is they've taken the shooting brake version of the coupe and turned the shooting brake version of the coupe back into a coupe. So I guess actually it's like a four-wheel drive 4-seat F12, which is kind of cool. But you know, the thing that's quite frankly unforgivable for me is the paintwork. Ferrari pulled a Lamborghini a few years ago and brought out the 599 Alonso. And when I say pull a Lamborghini, I mean slap some paint on a car, do absolutely nothing to the mechanical elements of it, charge a premium, and then call it a special edition. So let's think, you know, Aventador Miura, Aventador Pirelli edition, or the Huracan Aveo. The 599 Alonso had this really jarring red and white paint scheme, which was kind of supposed to mirror the Formula One car, but it just looked rubbish. And the customer's clearly gone, I want this copied onto my Frankenstein FF Coupe. You know, it's kind of like a modern 612, but yeah, in any case, this is going straight in the bin. The Ferrari SP275 RW Competizione. So yeah, despite the name, this one is the best of the lot. Absolutely no questions asked, and frankly, I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me, because this is what happens when an actual Ferrari fan gets the chance to build their dream car. So the 275 GTB is easily one of the best looking cars in history, and is definitely one of Ferrari's coolest cars, I think, for sure. You know, don't get me wrong, you look cool rocking up somewhere in an F12, but if you rock up in a 275 GTB, doesn't matter where you are the man, 100%. So this car is essentially a reimagining of the 275 GTB from the modern day. And if you have a look at it, you know, you can see that the kind of the way that the body flows is quite similar, and you've got the vents in quite similar places, and it clearly harks back to the 275 GTB. Now, the design itself is fantastic, but it's not based on a regular F12. This thing's a TDF underneath. So, you know, a TDF features very prominently in my dream garage, and quite frankly, I might as well make it this TDF. So, taking into account the fact that it's the best thing to ever come out of this special commissions department, no questions asked. This one is you know, get out of my dreams and get into my garage. This one's cool. Ferrari 458 Speciale. Based on the Speciale, as far as I can tell, they've basically given it 488 front and rear lights, some minor tweaks to the front and rear bumpers. The bonnet's kind of a less extreme version of the Speciale one. What I do like though is that if you have a look at the A-pillars, they've been painted in black, so it kind of almost, the design looks kind of like a helmet. And that's something that they did on the 288 GTO as well, so that's kind of cool. Apparently it's also had a sound system upgrade, and anyone who's spent time around a Speciale knows that the standard sound system is utter backwash. So yeah, it's okay, you know, not great, not horrifying. Oh man. The Ferrari SP38 Deborah. You've the name. Okay, you've got the Enzo, you've got the Dino, you've got the F12 Berlinetta, the 612 Scaglietti, and now you've got the SP38 Deborah. The most offensive thing about this, right, is that the person that ordered this car is supposedly called Debra. Now, the story I'd heard initially was that some guy wanted to go and spend 4 million euros on a car, but he needed to get approval from his wife, so the agreement was as long as he named the car after her, he could go and do it. Hilarious. That's great. I buy into that story. Spending 4 million euros on a car and naming it after yourself, the audacity of it, I cannot believe it. Man, anyway, okay, moving on to the looks, or the distinct lack thereof. The rear window is supposed to reference the F40's like slatted Lexan rear screen. Iconic. But it doesn't. It's a completely different design, and it looks like a Huracan. Similarly, the rear wing is supposed to reference the F40's, and I've seen bigger wings on a fly. The rear of the car looks like it's giving birth to a Diablo. So, you know, despite the fact that this is a Ferrari, I think the person likes Lamborghini. The thing that I don't like about it the most is that it's just a J50 with a hardtop roof. It's a deeply unimaginative exercise in completely pointless design, and this supposedly took 18 months from start to finish. Get in the bin. Ferrari SP3JC. So on paper, this should be a really good one, right? It was built for John Collins of Telecrest, and Telecrest is one of, if not the greatest classic Ferrari dealership on earth. You know, this guy sold 250 GTOs, 288 GTO, Evos, some of the Sultan of Brunei's right-hand drive, kind of colour to sample F40s. You know, he's been exposed to some seriously special metal in his time. And then secondly, it's based on the TDF, right? And based on the 275 RW Competizione, which we loved, this should be a winner. And in reality, it's just an absolute monstrosity. It looks like someone, it looks like someone drove into a paint booth by mistake and then kind of reversed out. It's just, I don't like it. It's not for me. But even putting aside the paint, right? The TDF had one of the most aggressive front ends on a road car ever. It's beautiful. But I mean, they've gone and made it look like a kind of toothless baby trying to smile for the first time. It's like really goofy and weird. The black and red car isn't quite as bad, but again, it just completely lacks character and cohesion, you know? Just, yeah, I'm not a fan. Gimbalical, they want their car back. The Ferrari Omologata. It's a lot like the SP America, really. It just doesn't do anything. It's basically an 812 in a skirt. You know, there's not really much to say beyond that. It's got funny bonnet, Portofino rear lights, Huracan slats in the rear window. Yeah, I don't know. It's just quite anodyne and just not particularly special. Yeah, not great, not horrifying. And now we'll just run through some kind of honourable mentions, which are relatively well-known special editions that weren't actually from specifically the special projects commissioning section of Ferrari, or actually just ones that I can't be bothered to talk about properly. So let's start with one of those. There's the Ferrari P80C. It's a race car. You know, it's cool, but it's never going to see a street in its life. So quite frankly, who cares? The Ferrari P4/5 by Pininfarina. This was built for James Glickenhaus of Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus fame, and also he's a kind of film producer and stuff. It's an Enzo that Pininfarina rebodied, so it's cool, and I personally really like it, but it's not a true one-off commission. Oh, man, okay, this one, the Pininfarina Sergio. If you ever want to start an argument with me, just mention this to me in passing. I'm like a bull seeing red with this thing. It's a 458 Speciale that Pininfarina have mutilated beyond recognition. Now, look, if they priced it sensibly, I wouldn't despise it quite the same way that I do, but they had the audacity to ask something like 4 million euros. In fact, one came up for sale for 4.3 million euros for that hunk of festering garbage. I would go and buy an F40 and an F50, and I'd keep the change. This is a horrific car. Moving on swiftly, we've got the F60 America, limited run of 10 cars, built to celebrate 60 years of Ferrari in America. Cool, you know, I don't love it, I don't hate it. It's basically a kind of an F12 Aperta. Yeah, it's nice, it's all right. Then there was the J50, which we've mentioned already. This was very similarly a limited run of 10 cars, built to celebrate 50 years of Ferrari in Japan. It's okay. It's all right, you know. I prefer this to the SP38 Deborah. And then the Ferrari 575 GTZ Zagato. Now, this one's cool. Ferrari basically brought Zagato in, who's another carrozzeria or kind of coach builders, to rebody a 575 in this really amazing kind of streamlined Art Deco fashion. I love it, but again, it's a rebodied 575, not necessarily like a true special commission. So that's it, guys. We've had a look at all of the official and some of the kind of non-official Ferrari special commissions. As you can tell, I've got relatively strong feelings about them. But you know, I'd love to hear what you think. I'm sure people are going to disagree with me. You know, ultimately, the way something looks is totally subjective. There are going to be something you love that I hate, and that's okay because I know that I'm right and that you're wrong. In any case, guys, if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. If you've enjoyed this, give us a like and let me know in the comments what you thought. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.